A toddler lost his mom at 18 months old and nobody told him what happened. A 9-year-old girl built a shrine in her closet to a boy who didn't know she existed. An old man in a children's show is slowly losing every memory of the person he used to be. And you watched all of them before you had the vocabulary to understand what you were looking at. Today, 5 cartoon characters whose trauma was hiding in plain sight, decoded. There's a category of cartoon character that doesn't fit into normal analysis. They're not the villains, they're not the comic relief. They're the ones who exist in a specific kind of pain that the show never directly names, but keeps returning to, episode after episode, season after season. These characters weren't written as trauma victims. They were written by people who understood something about human damage and coded it into characters children would watch for years without fully understanding what they were seeing. Here are 5 of them, case by case. The evidence is in the episodes. Case 1. Chucky Finster. Pathological anxiety from pre-verbal loss. Rugrats premiered in 1991. It was a show about babies having adventures, and buried inside it was the most psychologically accurate depiction of pre-verbal maternal loss ever put into a children's program. Chucky Finster's mother died when he was approximately 18 months old. This is established in the Mother's Day special and reinforced across multiple episodes. Chucky has no conscious memory of her. He was too young, but he has every symptom of attachment disruption from early maternal loss. He is terrified of everything. Heights, slides, bugs, new people, loud noises. This is not a personality. This is a hypervigilance response. The nervous system of a child whose primary attachment figure disappeared without explanation, who learned at a pre-verbal developmental stage that the world is not safe and the people you love can vanish. His father Chaz is loving but anxious himself, a single dad who never fully processed his own grief and projects it onto Chucky through overprotectiveness. The dynamic reinforces the anxiety. Chucky sees that his father is afraid for him, which confirms that there's something to be afraid of. Loop closed. In one episode, Chucky finds a tape of his mother's voice. He doesn't recognize it. He's never heard it before. And then he carries the tape around like a security object, listening to a voice he doesn't know belongs to the person he lost, because on some level his body remembers what his conscious mind can't. That's the part that should land hardest. Chucky doesn't know he's traumatized. He was too young to form the memory, but his nervous system recorded everything. And the show spent 13 years showing you the results without ever saying the words attachment disorder once. That's not a cartoon character, that's a child psychology case file animated for Saturday morning. Case 2. Helga Pataki. Emotional neglect and obsessive attachment. On the surface, Helga is a bully. Loud, aggressive, mean to Arnold, mean to everyone. Another angry kid in a cartoon. Move on. Here's what most people do not realize. Helga has the most explicitly documented parental neglect in 90s animation. Her mother Miriam is functionally unconscious, alcoholic, depressive, checked out of Helga's life to the point where she forgets Helga's name. Her father, Big Bob, is a narcissist who only acknowledges Helga when she performs academically or when he needs something from her. Her older sister Olga is the golden child who gets all the parental attention Helga never receives. Helga is 9 years old and nobody in her house sees her. Now the shrine. Helga has a closet in her bedroom entirely dedicated to Arnold, a heart-shaped shrine with a clay bust, photographs, monologues she delivers when she's alone. She has written poetry about him for years. She tracks his schedule. She knows everything about him, and she has never told him any of it. This is obsessive attachment as compensation for neglect. Helga cannot get love from her parents. She cannot even get attention from her parents. So she constructs an elaborate internal relationship with the one person who was kind to her once, Arnold, who noticed her in the rain when she was little when nobody else did. The shrine is not about Arnold. The shrine is about Helga's need to believe she is capable of love, that she has somewhere to put the emotional capacity her parents trained her to repress. The tragedy is that Helga is genuinely brilliant. She's a gifted writer, she's perceptive, she sees through everyone, and she uses all of that intelligence to maintain a secret emotional life because expressing it openly was never safe. In one episode, she finally tells Arnold everything. He doesn't believe her at first, and she says, "I've loved you since the first day I saw you, and I'll love you until the day I die." 9 years old. That's not a crush. That's a survival mechanism that became an identity. Helga's parents forgot her, so she built a world where someone couldn't. Case 3. We've covered the monsters of Courage the Cowardly Dog in full. Every episode, every condition. But the show's central dynamic deserves its own file. Courage was abandoned. His parents were sent into space by a cruel veterinarian and never came back. Muriel found him as a puppy alone in the middle of nowhere. She took him in. She loved him. And Courage has spent every single episode trying to earn it. He doesn't rest. He doesn't stop. He faces monsters that would destroy anyone else. Not because he's brave, but because he cannot let Muriel be taken away from him the way his parents were. Every episode is the same pattern. Threat appears, adults dismiss it, Courage acts alone, Courage wins. Eustace insults him, Muriel pets him, and repeat. This is anxious, preoccupied attachment. Courage is in a permanent state of hypervigilance because the last time he let his guard down, the people he loved disappeared. The show never told him his parents were gone forever, but children who watched it understood it on a level below language. The fear wasn't the monster. The fear was losing the one person who stayed. And the thing that makes this case different from the others, Courage never gets better. The show ends. The monsters keep coming. The pattern continues. Because in real life, attachment trauma formed in early childhood doesn't resolve just because you survived one episode. It's chronic. The show never lied about that. It's not a happy ending, that's an honest one. Case 4. Adventure Time. The Ice King. For 4 seasons, the Ice King is a joke. He kidnaps princesses, he yells about his Gunter penguins, he's pathetic and weird and nobody takes him seriously. Standard cartoon villain. Then season 5 drops the reveal. Simon Petrikov was an archaeologist. He found a crown. He put it on to protect a little girl named Marceline during the apocalypse. The crown gave him power, and then it ate his mind. Every time Simon used the crown, he lost a piece of himself. His memories, his relationships, his identity. By the time Finn and Jake encounter him, Simon is gone. What's left is the Ice King. A shell with fragments of Simon's emotions and no context for them. He kidnaps princesses because he's lonely and doesn't remember why. He calls his penguins by the wrong names because the part of his brain that stored their names was deleted. He's not a villain, he's a dementia patient trapped in a magical artifact. What most people do not realize is how terrifyingly accurate this is to real cognitive decline. The personality changes, the memory fragmentation, the moments of lucidity, brief windows where Simon surfaces, usually around Marceline, usually heartbreakingly brief, before the Ice King takes over again. This is the clinical arc of Alzheimer's and related dementias, mapped onto a cartoon penguin enthusiast and played completely straight. There's an episode where Marceline sings a song from her childhood, a song Simon wrote for her when she was little and the world was ending. The Ice King doesn't know the song, but he cries, because somewhere inside the ruined circuitry of his brain, the melody still lands. The emotion outlasted the memory. If you've ever sat with someone who couldn't remember your name but still felt that you mattered, you understand exactly what Adventure Time was doing. And it did it for years without the network ever categorizing the show as drama. Case 5. Zuko. Avatar: The Last Airbender. You know the story. Banished prince, burnt face, father who did it, chases the Avatar for 2 seasons, switches sides, redemption arc, everyone's favorite character arc and animation. Sorry if you haven't caught up on the show yet. Here's what the cultural conversation often misses. Zuko is not a redemption story. Zuko is a complex post-traumatic stress disorder recovery story, and every single beat of his arc maps onto clinical treatment. CPTSD develops from prolonged, repeated trauma. Abuse from a primary caregiver, sustained over years, without escape. Zuko's father scarred his face and exiled him when he was 13. His sister manipulated him. His mother disappeared. He spent years alone chasing an impossible goal because the alternative was admitting his father never loved him. The symptoms are all there. Emotional dysregulation, the explosive anger, the self-loathing spirals, identity disturbance. Who am I without the mission? hypervigilance, never able to rest, never able to trust, interpersonal difficulty, the constant push-pull with Iroh, the only person who ever offered unconditional support. And then, beat by beat, the show walks him through recovery. He leaves the abuser. He finds safety with Iroh. He confronts the trauma, literally in the day of Black Sun, facing his father. He integrates his identity. Not the prince, not the exile, but Zuko. He makes amends. He builds new relationships. He finds purpose. The finale shows Zuko as Fire Lord. Calm, centered, capable. It's not a victory in battle. That's the clinical end state of trauma recovery. The symptoms are managed. The identity is integrated. The abuser no longer defines the self. Avatar put a 13-year-old abuse survivor at the center of a children's show and then spent 3 seasons showing exactly what recovery looks like. Not as a single dramatic moment, but as a slow, painful, non-linear process that takes years and requires other people. Iroh didn't fix Zuko. Iroh created the conditions where Zuko could fix himself. That's exactly what trauma therapy does. And the show aired it next to a flying bison and a bald kid who could bend air. That's the record. 5 cases, 5 children's shows, 5 characters whose trauma wasn't subtext, it was text. Delivered 1 frame at a time for an audience that would spend years growing into the vocabulary to understand what they'd already felt. Chucky lost a mother he can't remember and developed a nervous system that never stopped searching. Helga lost her parents' attention and built a shrine to the one person who noticed her. Courage lost his family and spent every episode trying to earn the love he was afraid of losing again. Simon lost himself, memory by memory, crown by crown, until only the melody remained. Zuko lost his face, his home, his identity, and then spent 3 seasons rebuilding all of it from scratch. These are not coincidences. Writers who understand trauma code it into their work, and children who experience trauma recognize it, even if they never name it, even if they never tell anyone, even if the only evidence is the way a certain episode made them feel something they couldn't explain. The shows weren't dark by accident, they were dark by design, and now you know what you were actually watching. Which character hit you the hardest? Drop it in the comments. And if you want more case files, more cartoon psychology hiding in plain sight, hit subscribe. The files are never closed.